welcome to the island of Shuffle. I'm your host, the Freak.
And I'm your host, the Freak.
And together, these two freaks like to talk about a little show that I like to call Lost. And it's a little show that you might have heard of. And the thing about it is, this one plane, it's going to crash on this one island, but neither the plane or the island are quite what you think they are. And as
the plane is... Are there any plane surprises?
You know, there aren't. The plane turns out to just be a plane.
It is what I think it is.
The plane is a plane.
And also, I sort of expected the island to be somewhat mystic. But no, you're right. It isn't what I thought it was.
You didn't expect the island to be, you know, the source of all life or whatever.
Yeah,
Time traveling.
the source of the cork that holds the underworld in check.
Of course. But listen. We don't find that out for a long-ass time. Because here's the deal about this podcast. What we do is we don't watch it in order. We watch it randomly.
Yeah, we use a random number generator to get an order.
To get a new order.
To bring new order to the world.
Exactly. We really like the synth-pop new wave band New Order. And we thought that this would be a good way to give them some exposure for once.
It reminds me of my catering company that I'm starting up, Nude Hors d'oeuvres.
Well, tell me more about Nude Hors d'oeuvres.
We mostly cater orgies and, or as we like to call them, hors d'oeuvres.
As you would, of course. Oh my
That's
God.
it. That's essentially it.
That's plenty. That's
That's more than enough.
That's great, and I like to think about it for sure.
Yeah.
What did we watch this week? We watched a little episode in the middle to end of season 3. Season 3, episode 16. And it's called One of Us. Just one of us.
Just one of us, yeah. So Juliet is one of us now.
Juliet is now one of us. This is our final Juliet episode.
Juliet is no longer the protagonist after this episode. But she was before this episode.
Yes, she definitely, absolutely, objectively was the clear protagonist up until this episode.
That's really interesting because she has probably 5 episodes in the whole show?
I want to say like 4 maybe.
I feel like we got all of them within like a... I mean, this one is far outside of it, but I feel like we got 3 of them in like a 5-episode span.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow, God is real.
God might be real.
God is real, and he manipulates random.org.
To any atheists out there, I invite you to consider this podcast.
Check in, mate.
Yeah. So this is a Juliet episode, and it's all about our friend Juliet, who's cool and mean. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with Juliet's backstory.
Okay, sure. That makes sense to me. So Juliet, last we saw of Juliet chronologically, she was curing her sister's cancer and getting recruited by Richard Alpert to go.
She was in Miami, baby.
She was in beautiful, sunny Miami, Florida. It's
the town that knows how to get down.
Miami, Florida, where Florida surrounds it completely.
Miami.
You go to Miami, you look in any direction, you can't throw a stone without hitting Florida.
It will continuously be Florida unless you look at the ocean.
Unless you look at the ocean or have really good vision and can see real far north.
Some people have that. I think Jacob has that.
Jacob might have that.
Cats can see in the dark.
Cats can see in the dark and over state borders.
And over skateboarders?
State borders.
Oh, state borders. Cats can see over skateboarders.
I mean, I can see over skateboarders too. I don't think that's
true.
a special. I don't think that's a particularly remarkable
Honestly,
sight skill.
Hot take. I think I might be over skateboarders.
Wow.
You heard it here first. Skateboarding's over, friends.
Tony Hawk, done. The rest, done.
Tony Hawk is sort of done.
Yeah, he mostly just tweets.
He's like 80 now.
He's like 80, and he just mostly tweets about how he almost got recognized one time.
But he didn't even.
No, he didn't.
It was almost.
It was almost, but not quite.
I recognized you from the game.
And he's like, cool. And then he tweets about it.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Which I appreciate.
Honestly, a pretty blessed life as far
Good
as
for
life
Toneth.
Toneth Hoth.
Toneth Hawkington.
Toneth Hawkington of the First Order of
So
Underground.
Juliet is and her cat
Yes.
They're looking over a skateboarder.
And they're parked right outside of this mysterious science agency. And
her cat is her sister.
Her cat is her sister. And Juliet's like, is this a mistake? I mean, I'm going to be, I know I'm only going to be gone for 3 months, but I'm going to miss the birth of your child. And her sister's like, hey, listen, you cured my cancer, and you gotta.
That's good enough for me.
It's good enough for me. Do what you want, and
you'll only be gone for 6 months.
You'll only be gone for 6 months, and this is the opportunity you've been looking for. And imagine doing what you did to me to a bunch of other people. Wouldn't that be swell? I think that'd be swell. Anyways, have fun in there. They go in, and you got Ricky.
Later, skater.
later, potato. And so he goes into this very secret, super secret. Like there's a gate, there's security cameras.
Mm-hmm.
It's
also an airport.
I
think
it's also an airport that is completely empty except for one lady at the counter. And you've got Ricky there, you've got Ethan there. Ethan starts taking Juliet's vitals.
Yeah.
And
as you do.
And Ricky mixes some tranquilizer into some orange juice and gives it to Juliet. And Juliet's like, "Hey,
why, guy?
This is I was fine with signing 1 million NDAs and never telling anyone about this, and I was fine when I looked up this organization and found out it doesn't really exist, and I was fine with all that. But this is a step too far." And Ricky rightfully calls her out and is like, "Okay, are you really fine with all that? Are you really fine with
this
me?
This is insane. You get that, right?
I'm handing you horse tranquilizer in an airport. Are you sure? Is this really the line you're gonna cross?" And then Ricky follows this up with some sound logic, saying, maybe the reason you're fine with it is because you know in your heart of hearts that the place we're taking you isn't any ordinary place. No sirree, Bob. And Juliet says, "Okay, good enough for me." And
she downs it. She chugs it.
She chugs the whole.
She wants to go to Portland.
She wants to go to Portland. She's ready to. Yeah, she still thinks they're going to Portland. By the way,
she's like, Portland isn't any old place.
Yeah, Portland is magical.
Yeah, you ever see the show?
The show Portlandia, boy.
The sketch comedy show.
Jack White could show up at any moment.
Jack White does show up at any moment. Detective or Agent Dale Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
Is the mayor.
Yes, that's the most magical aspect of all of Portland.
Fred Armisen and Carrie Brownstein.
You gotta take your horse trank to see that.
Several characters played by the same people.
Boy,
what
oh boy.
More is there for you, Juliet, character in Lost?
Whenever I move to a new city, which doesn't happen often, but a thing I have to always take into consideration is, how much tranquilizer do I need to take to get there?
Totally.
And also how much character work is going to be already built in.
Mm-hmm. Who are the characters of the city?
Yes, exactly. Who are the wacky, unpredictable characters of this?
Hollywood, great city for characters.
Fantastic.
New York, full of characters.
Mm-hmm.
Winnipeg. What characters do you have? Winnie the Pooh.
Yes, great character.
Really good character.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really think of another one.
Me neither.
Where's Superman from? I mean, he's from Metropolis, but a Canadian made him.
Gosh, I have no idea. At all.
Let's say Saskatchewan.
That sounds about right. I definitely do remember the Heritage Minute about him chasing the train. And trains feel like a very
old-fashioned, old-timey sort of thing.
Feels like a Saskatchewan thing for sure.
Yeah.
For some reason. So, hey, before we move on from this excellent
really
bit
this
fantastic banter that everyone loves to hear, I'd love to hear about some of the characters in Montreal, where you and I both currently reside.
Who do you have?
Well, you've got big time Leonard Cohen.
Mm-hmm. But I wonder if he's not a character though. He's just a person.
He is just a person. The only character I feel like the Just for Laughs Goblin
is the main character.
He's the protagonist of Montreal.
Mommy, it's over.
Yes, absolutely. Don't forget about the Saint Viateur bagel.
The Saint Viateur bagel is definitely a character.
He's a prime guy.
And the Big Orange.
The Big Orange. Oh, the tales you could tell about the Big Orange.
And Who else? The sun in Korra's logo.
I feel like that's a character in any city.
But I think they're based out of here.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Did you know last year the CEO and or owner of Korra's was found with a bag over his head, hands bound in a ditch in Laval.
I do remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that was a headline. Oh, man.
It was a hit on the brunch, man. I love how it seems like they just wanted to scare him or something.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on there?
That I don't know what that could have been. That raises so many questions. It must have been the mob.
You know what? Let's go get some waffles with fruit on them to celebrate.
Yes, please. Let's get.
I want to pay $19 for that.
Let's pay $50 for a single sausage and then a mountain of fruit.
Yes, please.
Sounds good. So there's a show called Lost, and in that show, Juliet has just taken some horse tranquilizer. I don't think they specify that it's horse tranquilizer. I think it's
just tranquilizer.
I just have horse tranq on the brain, as I often do. So she passes out, and then she wakes up. Strapped in a submarine. Ethan says, hey, just had to strap you in because it's a bumpy ride. We're here. And she gets up, climbs out of the submarine, and stares at the island for her very first time. She goes, wow, well, look at this pretty place.
Beautiful island. Portland is secluded.
Yeah, Portland is very secluded, huh? There sure is a lot of ocean around Portland. I guess it is on the West Coast. Okay. So... she greets Ben Linus on the dock, and Ben says, hey, nice to meet you. We got a lot of work to do, you and me. And next scene we see is in a medical room where a lady
has
surgery.
And a lady is dead.
A lady is dead, and they are pronouncing her dead, and Juliet is upset.
I now pronounce you woman and dead. You may now bite the bullet.
That's definitely my favorite part of the hospital drama.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get a lot of like procedural hospital dramas these days, but whenever someone would die, they would always say that out loud.
What is a good procedural? Was House a procedural hospital
I think
drama?
House was a...
I've never seen House.
House was a procedural for sure. I was definitely deep into House for a bit.
Deep House.
Yeah, I was very acid into House.
Into House.
Yeah. Not a great show. Definitely a show about a grumpy man who sucks.
Grey's Anatomy, not a hospital procedural.
No, I think it's just
a show about people in a hospital.
Just a show that happens to be in a hospital.
Wait, no, I wasn't thinking of Grey's Anatomy. I've never seen Grey's Anatomy either. Scrubs,
no. Goofy
Maybe
comedy.
Grey's Anatomy, I don't know.
Goofy comedy where Zach Braff goes boing, and then suddenly there's an episode where someone really does die for real.
Really?
And everyone's sad.
What?
Scrubs had like the wildest tonal whiplash of any show maybe I've ever seen.
That's cool.
Very much
I've seen like 6 episodes. I liked it.
It's mostly like very goofy ass single camera like.
Yeah.
And then like 2 episodes out of the season are like, oh yeah, this is in a hospital. Oh my god. Like real shit.
Not again. Not the hospital.
Not the hospital.
I like the
again.
janitor in that show.
Yeah, he's a goober.
He's a goof.
He's a real goof em up.
So a woman is dead on a table.
That's
what we're trying to say.
That's the long and the short of it. A woman has died, and Juliet is upset. She goes out to the Newfoundland rocks to cope, and she sits on the coast, and she wonders if her love will ever return from the war on the sailing ship.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Honestly, relatable mood.
Yeah.
Eternal mood, and she
eternal mood. Oh my God, that's a sad life.
Truly. So she's gazing out, and who comes up to comfort her but Benjamin Linus? And Ben says, "You know what?"
Line.
And they kind of hash it out, and they say, they fill in a few details for us. They say Ben says, "You know what? When she knew that when she was getting pregnant, she was taking on a huge risk, and you did all you could." And Juliet basically says, like, whatever's happening to these women, it must be starting at consumption. At consumption.
They need to pay a concession.
They need to go to the concession stand.
You need to go to confession.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Must be happening at conception.
Yes, must be happening at conception. I need to take women off of the island to see if this is real or not. And Ben is like, no. You're not taking anybody off the island. And then Juliet says, well, then there's nothing I can do for these women.
I gotta go home now.
I guess it's time for me to go home and see my sister who I love. And Ben says...
She's about to give birth, too.
She's about to give birth, and that's going to be great. And Ben pulls out the big guns and pulls out a big folder full of medical information and says... Guess what? Your sister's cancer is back, baby. And
she's gonna die.
She's gonna die.
And I will only save her if you stay here.
This is where the episode goes from 0 to 60 in terms of Juliet's backstory.
T-8 minutes.
In but a moment, this scene has gone from Ben Linus comforting Juliet over another lost patient to
essentially being like,
to an open threat.
Yeah, exactly. Your sister will die.
Your sister will die. And guess what? If you stay with me and continue the work you're doing, I will cure her cancer. And Juliet's obviously like, that is an insane leap of faith. Also, it's been 3 months. This is insane. Let me leave, please. And Ben pulls out Jacob card. And
out of his pocket.
Ben pulls Jacob out of his pocket, and Jacob's standing in Ben's little tiny hand. And Jacob says, it's me, Juliet.
Hello.
Hello there. Hi, I'm down here. You might not see me because I'm so tiny. But I just wanted to say that I could cure your sister's cancer.
And Juliet's like, all right. Let's do it, little old buddy.
Let's do it, buddy.
You are the... character of the island.
You are the island, aren't you? Oh, yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yes, you are, little boy.
Scratches his little chin.
Jacob is like on his back with his hands and legs like going like a bicycle.
This is a way better version of Jacob.
Yeah.
If Jacob
sucks in real life.
Jacob is bad. Boring. Jacob is boring and sucks to look at. If he was a tiny little guy who fit in your pocket and was cute, then imagine that.
Just put him in your pocket.
Put him in your
pocket.
pocket.
Wouldn't that be funny? Wouldn't that be crazy to walk around with a little man in your pocket and you would like feel him moving around? And he has a little TV and a little chair in there. He like turns the kettle on and then your leg is warmed.
I feel like that would be an uncomfortable living situation for that little man. Surely that little man can find himself a nice box somewhere.
Yeah,
a nice little shoebox.
Oh, that would be nice. Oh, that'd be awesome as a little man to live in a little box. Just like a box in a room and you cut out a little window.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be cool. I want to be a little man.
You know what? We'll get there someday.
Yeah, shrink me, Daddy.
Daddy, you gotta shrink me.
Shrink me, Justin Trudeau.
Daddy Justin, if there's one thing I'm hoping out of your liberal government, it is that you can shrink me and James so that we can live like we're little people.
You already fucking
we can live in the
shrink people's brains, all those liberal idiots.
Oh my God. Let me tell you something about Justin Trudeau. Don't do anything, if you ask me, because he don't do anything. Hey, it's me. I write for the National Post. And I'm here to
write for the Byron Times. My name's Byron.
I love the Byron Times.
Publish it weekly on my Blogspot website. I love... Do you ever find yourself in an area of the internet where you just get to like a weird conservative like faux news thing?
Yeah. It's not hard.
Just any sort of faux news sites where it is like passes itself off as information and then you read it and it's like, this is a Facebook post.
Yeah.
This is a rant.
It's twisted.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it's twisted out there online. If you're logging in, you just got to be careful is all I'm saying.
Log out.
Let's log out and then log back in to this.
We're all loggers these days. Everyone's a lumberjack. We're always logging in, logging out. Oh, you know what I mean.
Oh, fuck, dude. You really are cutting. You're really cutting right to the bone of it, aren't you?
Yeah.
Getting right to the meat and potatoes of the issue.
Yep.
You could do. I feel like you could be a great political cartoonist.
Yeah, then I would get to create characters.
Yes, then you would
all
get
the
to
great
create.
cities.
Do you remember that? I must have shown you this before, but that political cartoon from back when Pokemon Go was the hot thing, and the political cartoon is a man reading Jack and Jill to his child in bed. And the man says, like, Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. And the child says, to fetch a crummy pail of water, he should have been fetching Pokemon creatures.
Oh my God.
And he's
I've never seen this before.
It is a seminal work of political cartooning.
Incredible. Just social observation.
Yeah.
And truly poignant commentary that delves into the root of the issue.
It really sums up what we're all thinking, kind of.
I like the thought that dad and that writer comes from a time when, like, you did go up a hill to fetch a pail of water.
Yeah.
They're like, kids these days so disconnected from reality. It's like, shut the fuck up. You turned on the tap too.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Back in my day, we read Jack and Jill.
Yeah, exactly.
We read to the end of Jack and Jill.
Back when MASH was on TV.
The real shit.
The real shit.
Kids these days don't even know anything about Hawkeye or his exploits.
None of these pukey balls or whatever you call them.
Pukey balls. That's good.
Balls.
Now you're onto something.
Pukey balls.
Now you're a columnist. Wasn't there a television show you were watching?
I forget what's happening. Ben threatened cancer.
Ben threatened cancer. Ben promised to cure cancer.
As you do.
As you do. Classic normal guy thing to do. You ever just threatened to cure someone's cancer? Anyways, wake up next day.
Why don't you put on a little makeup?
It's been 3 years.
Why'd you leave the keys out on the table?
It's been 3 years.
I don't know the rest.
That's all you need to know.
It's been 3 years.
It's been 3 years. Juliet is having sex with Goodwin.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's looking at some x-rays. And she's going, uh-oh. And she confronts Ben in the emotional climax of the episode where Juliet says, guess what? You wanted me to look at your spine? Well, guess what? It's not a disc or anything. It's a tumor.
You got a tumor, idiot.
It's a tumor. You've got cancer. And you told me that no one on this island got cancer. So the jig is up, buddy. What's going on?
What are you doing?
And they start screaming at each other. And Juliet's like...
Oh, yeah. This is the best scene, actually. This whole episode, we should say, is a soap opera, and it's incredible.
It really feels like a soap opera.
It has all of the things. Horse tranquilizer, the cancer. Later, we will find out about the serum, the threat of death.
Yes.
The lady who dies in the operating room.
Yes.
The cheating.
Twists upon twists.
Yeah,
in this episode.
the love triangles.
It's a soap opera, and frankly, it's all the better for it.
Yeah, totally.
It really leans into it in a way that I enjoyed. For instance, in this scene, Juliet is like... and Elizabeth Mitchell is acting her ass off. She's like screaming and crying and hooting and hollering. And
she smacks a glass out of Ben's hand.
Yep. She smacks a glass out of Ben's head and says, you lied to me. You can't cure cancer at all. And Rachel is dead, I bet. And it's all your fault. And Ben says, no, I told you the truth. I am a man of my word. And they're like being really dramatic.
Cool, it's awesome.
They're being very dramatic and saying things that you say to each other when you're in a fight. You're a liar and I told you the truth. So that scene ends with Juliet just crying into Ben's shoulder. And then the next scene we see is the crash of Flight 815. We see the gang. So for reference, the others are currently living in the yellow Dharma houses that we saw the gang living in back in 1977. At this point in time, the others are just living there. And so they all get out and they stand around and they look up and they see the plane get torn apart in the midair. And Ben sends Ethan and Goodwin out to the survivors. And then he says, hey, Juliet, I want you to come see me. And they go out to see Mikhail, who's the eye patch guy, who we don't get to see very much of, but when we do, it's a treat.
It's so funny. He just has an eye patch. He doesn't have a personality.
He doesn't have a personality. He just is Russian and has an eye patch.
Yeah.
And
he
Ben
watches TV.
He watches a lot of TV. They go and they basically have this like surveillance station set up, and they like Mikhail's like breaking it down. He's like, okay, we have this many passengers, and I'm already working on like getting all their personal information, figuring out who's who and what's what, and how this happened. And Ben's like, great, okay, now I need to show Juliet something, and he taps into Ricky, and Ricky turns his GoPro on, and Ricky's in Miami, and points the camera at Rachel and a baby. Guess what? They're alive. And Juliet.
They're alive and they're happy.
They're happy. They're living. Rachel named her baby Julian after Juliet.
I thought it was after Julian from the Trailer Park Boys.
It could also be
the character of Halifax.
the one of Halifax's primest characters.
Yeah.
There are not a lot of New Brunswick characters, is what I'll say.
No.
I think there's the moose on the Moosehead logo. And
I think that might be it.
That's basically it.
PI characters? Anne.
You got Anne.
Gables.
Yeah, you got Anne. That's plenty, I think. Anyways, so, and Juliet's overjoyed. Juliet's bawling. She can't believe it. And Ben's like, you said I was a liar, and I'm not. And then that's that, more or less, isn't it? That is that. That's Juliet's backstory, as we learn about how she came here to fix moms who were dying when they were giving birth, and she was having a rough go at it.
I feel like what it really attempted to reiterate, and succeeded in reiterating, is just how much Juliet the whole time is like always trying to get off the island, and she's like, all right, I did my 6 months, I need to go. And she's like, this isn't working, I need to go, I need to go, I need to go. And Ben is like, no, and really holds a bunch of stuff over her head and is very manipulative.
That's exactly it, because this is the episode where we start to see, like, oh, Juliet wants out very badly. Juliet's not like the others who are all like up until like this episode, more or less. Our portrait of the others is that they are all just constantly trying to kill and manipulate and torment the survivors.
Totally.
And this season starts to shed some new light on that. It doesn't necessarily justify all those crazy actions, but
it does show you like why it might have occurred.
Exactly.
What the motivation was behind that. And it was mostly just Ben as a maniac.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
who like has a lot of power over a lot of people.
Exactly.
It's cool to watch just the exploration of like the ways that Ben garners and maintains his power in a sense.
Absolutely.
It's like a really interesting like psychological torment that he like has on all these people, and in a sense a lot of those people have like Stockholm syndrome.
Exactly. They stick with Ben out of a mix of fear and loyalty. And it's also very interesting to watch that power.
It's sort of like with God.
Yeah, it's a lot like with God. I'm afraid of God, but I'm loyal to him.
Yeah.
As all good Christians ought to be.
He's my one and only.
Love that guy.
The only guy I will do it with.
Do what with exactly?
Pray.
Of course.
That's what I meant. What were you thinking?
I don't know. You didn't specify. When you go to church, you don't pray because there's a bunch of other people there too.
No, I won't do it with them.
No.
That's why I don't go to church.
Of course. You only pray in your most silent moments.
I went into a church today, actually. I started... Whenever I walk by big churches, I go in now to look at them.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they're nice.
How's that? Has anybody been like... Have you gotten any, like, people looking back at you and being like, who's this jabroni?
Not so much.
Really?
I think everyone's excited to see, like, a young person in a church. They're like, wow, the youngest member of our congregation is 82.
Yeah, yes. Fair. That's fair.
And I'm like, I'm a rich millennial. I want to see if I can buy this to make a dope-ass apartment.
Yeah, I'm going to turn this ancient Orthodox church into a lovely condo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will.
Millennials love to make condos.
I love condos. And I will put them anywhere.
Anywhere I can, any property I can buy, I'll slap a condo right there, baby.
Slap a condo on it. Slap a condo on it. It's interesting living in, like, this neighborhood is really a lot of condos going up.
Yeah, I mean, that's all over Montreal, baby. It's a problem.
Condo time.
It's condo time. So, speaking of time, what do you say we head to the future where it's actually the present and Juliet is
Yes. What do you say we head to the future where it's actually the present?
Yeah. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, all right.
I'm interested to see how that works.
Well, listen. It starts a little something like this. Saeed, Kate, Juliet, and Jack are on their way back to camp. And they're all kind of like heated, and Saeed's like, you got to tell me everything, Juliet. You got to tell me why you're tormenting us. Why the others are the way they are. And Juliet,
why, you a demon from the Black Lagoon.
And Juliet's like, if I tell you, won't you just
kill you?
Won't you just kill me?
Yeah.
And then they get interrupted, and Jack says, like, leave her alone. She'll talk when she's ready. And Jake. Jake?
Yeah.
I love Jake.
His name's Jake now.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Jake. His name is Jake now.
His name is Jake now. Short for Jacob.
No.
Wait, are you talking about the little man in the pocket?
No, I'm talking about the doctor.
Are you talking about the little man wiggling around my pocket right now?
I ain't talking about the little man in your pocket.
Cut it out, little man.
Tell him
Don't make me slap you again.
No, don't slap me.
Slap my pocket. I carry around a fly swatter.
Don't. It hurts my little body. I'm already so cramped in your stinky little pocket, James.
Are you done working at the office for the day? Do you want me to put you back in your box?
Yes, please. Hard day at work.
Okay, Jake.
Thanks.
Little man. Here you go.
Here I go.
Here you go. Go put the kettle on.
I'm gonna make myself a pot of noodles.
Yeah. Later, Jake.
Bye.
So, sorry, what was Jack doing?
Jack was defending Juliet from
yes.
Saeed's interrogations. And that's kind of how it goes. They get back to the camp, and we get a classic montage of people coming back to the beach. Everybody hugs Jack. Jack and Sawyer shake their hands, and that turns into a hug because, you know what? They're friends.
They're best friends.
They're friends in real life. And Kate and Sawyer give a hug, and everybody's like, oh, look at all these guys. We're all good. But then Sawyer says, what the hell is she doing here? Who's that lady over there?
Who's that lady with the pants in her hands?
She's got pants in her hands. They don't go on her hands.
Who's that lady with the pants in her hands?
Pants in her hands. They should be on her legs.
It was a weird moment in the show.
Very, very weird.
I like the chances that they took on that scene.
It was a really bold call, especially because Juliet was wearing pants. She did not have pants on her hand. So it really made Sawyer just look like a real weirdo.
He was on acid again.
Classic trait of Sawyer is doing acid and then freestyling at anyone he doesn't recognize.
Who's that lady?
That's Sawyer.
That's Sawyer for you. That's our protagonist.
That's the
That's why we love him.
That's why we put him on the front of the box.
Yeah. Enlarged to show texture.
Gotta get the texture of our hero Sawyer. Fuck. Haven't laughed about Sawyer in a good long while. I'm glad to do it.
I like it.
Okay. So once everyone gets Sawyer away from the scene, Juliet's sitting at the beach. Hurley comes over to try to kind of be diplomatic, and is like, hey, so I hear you're one of the others, and this is and he kind of, as like a gesture of like, don't fuck with us, but also kind of goodwill, he says, you know, last of your guys that came over, we killed him.
Yeah,
he's buried over there if you want to pay your respects. And fair enough, frankly. And then
frankly.
It's short for Frank Lapidus. He's not in this episode. I just like to think about him.
Yeah, totally.
I just like to think about that guy.
Fair enough, frankly.
I love Frank Lee.
Yeah.
Frankly Petus. Frankly Penis.
That's the pilot, right?
That's the pilot.
Lapidus. I didn't know that was his last name.
His last name is Lapidus, and I don't want to go into it too deep because it happens a lot in other episodes. But often a character will just shout Lapidus, and boy, does it ever sound like they're just shouting
like the penis.
The penis.
Oh, that's really funny.
It's funny to me all the time.
Penis.
It's lovely.
That's a crazy name.
It's a big name, and I like to hear it. Speaking of big names, all the big names are gathered around the kitchen, and they're all arguing. Sawyer's there, the acid's worn off, Saeed's there. Everyone's kind of grilling Jack.
The kitchen.
Yeah.
They have their makeshift kitchen.
Yeah, it's like the beach kitchen. It's like a table with like a shelf next to it, a bamboo shelf. And they're all grilling Jack and being like, she's an other. We can't possibly trust her. And why are you so frankly willing to go to bat for her? And Jack kind of is like, well, I spent a lot of time with others, and they promised me a way off the island, but then Locke blew up a submarine, and so that went haywire. We haven't seen that happen yet, but
I'm really excited to see that. I did not know about that.
I enjoyed having it referred to without any context.
Yeah, when Locke blew up the submarine.
Jack loves to bring up Locke blowing up the submarine, and it's really good. So what happens is while they're arguing, while they're hooting and hollering, and Jack's trying to defend Juliet, Claire shows up and starts coughing blood. And everyone's like, Claire, no, what happened?
Don't do that, you idiot.
And Juliet sees this happening from afar and goes, "Uh-oh. Kate, I need you to, what's happening to her?" And I think Sun and Jin are just like, why do you care? Like everyone's very like cold to Juliet, obviously. And Kate says like, well, what makes you so sure you know what's going on? And Juliet says, because I'm the one who did it to her. And then we get some exposition filled with like throwback montages that basically is Juliet explaining her deal. She says, I was brought here to, help pregnant women were dying, and I was here to help them try to figure out what it was. And that's why we were running tests on Claire. We were getting samples from her all through season 1. And then once y'all found out that Ethan was not on the plane, Ethan kind of improvised and kidnapped Claire. And so while Claire was kidnapped, I gave her implant of medicine to try to see if it would help with the baby. And it looks like it did, but now it's having some kind of adverse effect on her. So I know exactly, like, if you let me go out this way to the caves, I know where Ethan left some supplies. I can go get them, and I can come back, and I can fix Claire, and it can all be good. And obviously, everyone's kind of up in arms about it. Everyone's like,
"What? We don't trust.
We don't trust.
Lady.
We don't. You're just admitted to us that you are the reason that she's sick. Yeah. So like, we're really all doubtful. But Jack ultimately gives the go ahead, and Juliet's off. Juliet goes to get the supplies, and she opens a box full of supplies that's by a tree. And guess what? Sawyer and Saeed are there, and they come through, and they're like,
"Guess what?
Guess what?
Sawyer and Saeed are there.
They're there, and you know what? They're still not convinced.
Yeah,
they're not convinced, and they say, you know what? We got time to kill, so why don't you tell us the real deal? What you're here for? Why you're here? Everything about the others. Go for it." And instead of talking, Juliet just roasts both of them.
Yeah.
She says like, "Oh, I'm supposed to take the moral high ground from the torturer and the guy who murdered the wrong guy."
Which is a good roast.
A good roast.
I would love to turn on a Comedy Central roast. Like they do like the roast of Shaquille O'Neal, and someone is like, Shaquille O'Neal in 1982 murdered a man in cold blood.
And then 30 seconds later is also like, I bet Shaquille O'Neal is still haunted by the faces of the several men he tortured in his time in the army.
This is what roasts should be.
That's what roasts should be.
Roasts now are just like, your head is stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not funny. Whereas it should just be like,
open accusations.
Yeah, exactly. Open accusation.
Yeah.
You're the California killer.
The notorious California killer caught at last. It was Shaquille O'Neal the whole time.
We had a lot of trouble matching him to the witnesses described the man as 7'2"
and constantly rapping and giving basketball analysis.
He kept saying the words Shazam a lot.
And we were all just scared.
There was a movie with Shaq in it, right?
There was a movie with Shaq in it. I forget if it was Shazam or Kazam, but he does play a genie in it.
Yeah.
And that movie's mostly not very good, but there's definitely a lot of very choice moments in it. Shaq does play a genie. That you do get.
That's all you need.
That's really all you need, and the movie does deliver on that front.
Yeah.
So, Juliet comes back, fixes Claire up, everything's good. Everyone's kind of like starting to warm up to Juliet. Guess what? It's great. And Jax comes over to Juliet, who's still sitting alone, and brings her some supplies. He's like, here, you can build a shelter with this. Here's a bit of stuff. The gang said you could, set up tent over there. And, they're fine for now, but sooner or later, they're going to want some answers, And Juliet says, well, what about you? Why do you trust me so much? What have I done to earn your trust? And that's a good question. And Jack answers it right now with a fantastic sentence that says, you were right there with me. You were standing right next to me when that submarine blew up.
Incredible. Relatable.
Beautiful. You ever just stand next to your friend and watch a submarine blow up?
When the submarine blew up.
Oh, man. Damn, dude.
Beautiful.
Eternal mood.
How does it blow up if it's surrounded by water? Fire and water. They don't mix.
That's a good question.
How does that work?
Smarter folks than us have probably figured that one out. But we're both just too dumb.
Too dumb.
Our brains are too teeny.
My tiny little brain and the tiny little man in my pocket. Get in your box, little man.
No.
Little man.
You can't tell me when to go to bed. I'm an adult.
Little man, what are you doing with pants in your hands?
That's where they go.
Put your pants back on, little man.
I'm going to play Xbox.
Little man. I can see everything.
What do you got, a microscope? Little man's a little perverted sometimes.
Yeah, he's crazy.
You try living in a shoebox in a pocket.
Yeah, you try living in a pocket.
And coming out perfectly fine the other side.
Coming out at the pocket and I'm doing just fine.
Gotta be down 'cause I'm a little man.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Jack more or less says, hey, in that moment, I saw it in your eyes. I saw you wanted off this island way more than anyone I've ever met. And that includes the many crash survivors I've known, and the one drunken man who was stuck in a hatch for 3 years.
The man who left the island.
The man who did in fact leave the island and got too drunk and had to come back.
Hey, totally. Desmond left and he got wasted.
He left
and
went
in a circle.
Yeah, that's all it is.
The world, there's nothing else in the world.
We're trapped in a snow globe. It's like, oh, you're trapped.
Drunk, Desmond.
You're trapped in the bottle, my dude.
Yeah.
We end with a little montage. It starts off nice, and it's Juliet starting to set up her shelter, and she's looking around at the beach, and she's seeing them all, and she's, putting up the tarp and all that. But this is intercut with one final flashback. I say as I would just like the viewers to know that I just made eye contact with James as he spit a glass of a cube of ice back into the glass.
I was trying to make you laugh. It worked.
It worked. You got me. It was a funny image.
I gotcha.
Got me. So he's looking around, and it's intercut with one final flashback where we get Juliet and Ben talking it out. And they're kind of breaking it down, and they're saying, all right, so you're going to go over there. You're going to be handcuffed to Kate, which is an episode we already saw. And if you get caught, well, of course, I'll just admit to the lie and say it's the only way that she could trust me. And Jack will probably believe you And so it'll be, and Juliet's like, well, once I get there, I mean, you know, we've been tormenting them for so long. How do you expect me to gain their trust? And Ben's like, well, guess what? We can set off the implant we put in Claire, and then you'll have a nice crisis to solve. We'll set some supplies up nearby, and you can earn their trust that way. 'Twas all a ruse.
'Twas all a ruse the whole time.
'Twas all but another ruse.
'Twas all but a ruse.
This whole episode that we've spent learning about how Juliet has been just in the pocket of Ben the whole time. It ends with the revelation, the little lady, stuck in the pocket of Ben, and turns out she's not quite all the way there just yet.
She's still working for Ben.
Still working for Ben, and yeah, that's the end of the episode. Is that twist of
this episode?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the best one we've ever watched.
It's a fucking good episode. It
was awesome. It's so crazy.
It's a fun one. It's like got all the like the backstory reveals stuff about the island. Has like refers to other stuff that has happened. Like I always rag on like Ben having a tumor as like a very odd, like weird thing that doesn't make a lot of sense. But here it feels good. It feels like it is like corny and weird and soap opera-y, but in a good way. I love it.
I think it's incredible. I think this is if you want to watch just one episode of Lost, season 3, episode 16. Great spot to go.
Fantastic spot. Yeah, really just like a fun, weird episode with twists on twists on twists.
Twists on twists on twists.
All the way up until the final moments where you learn that Juliet's still in bed with the others. All right, so that's that episode.
What do you say we watch another?
I'd love to watch another. Just one more, please.
I went to random.org, which we all know and love. I put in 1 to 121, click generate. I got 37.
37. Let's see here. Whoops, 37. Oh boy. 37. Okay, 37 is season 2, episode 12. Fire plus water. And it's a Charlie episode.
Whoa.
Yes, indeed.
We were just talking about fire and water.
We were. So I think the fates are aligning and saying, hey, it's lost time. Watch me, baby.
Oh, little man, you did it again.
Little man did it again.
The little man in the sky.
I love that little man. Hey, thanks for listening to our silly-ass show. I've been Bean.
I've been James.
Follow us on Twitter at Island Shuffle. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/TheIsland